in your own unconscious mind. And it is within the vast, uncharted territory of the unconscious that the true battle for your soul takes place. What you fail to see, understand, and master within yourself will inevitably master you from the shadows. The greatest deception modern man inflicts upon himself is the belief that he is the conscious master of his life. We walk through our days on psychological autopilot, reacting violently without knowing why, consumed by emotions whose origins we do not comprehend, and making life choices that we subsequently sabotage. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Consider the sudden flare of anger that explodes within you out of nowhere, or the heavy, uninvited sadness that invades your quiet moments. These emotional states are not random phenomena. They are urgent distress signals dispatched from forgotten, ignored, or actively repressed aspects of your own psyche. The unconscious is not merely a passive repository of forgotten memories. It is a dynamic, living system composed of buried traumas, untamed instincts, and unspoken fears that continuously dictate how you perceive reality and how you respond to it. When a specific phrase or action causes you disproportionate distress, it is because it has made contact with a raw, unhealed nerve that you have spent a lifetime ignoring. Sweeping these psychological wounds beneath the rug of conscious awareness does not destroy them. It merely guarantees that you will continuously trip over them in the dark. Throughout my work, I discovered that we cannot change anything until we truly accept it. Condemnation does not liberate the human spirit, it oppresses it. Yet the average person spends a lifetime judging, repressing, and silencing their inner conflicts, naively hoping that denial will bring about resolution. The unconscious does not dissolve simply because you choose to look the other way. Instead, it finds increasingly dangerous avenues of expression manifesting through repeated toxic relationship patterns, relentless cycles of self-sabotage, and persistent unaccountable anxieties that arise even when your outer life appears serene. This is not bad luck, nor is it a cruel twist of destiny. It is your unconscious psyche attempting to awaken you from a deep hypnotic sleep. If you desire to become a person who is no longer shattered by life, you must stop fleeing from what resides within you. To remain ignorant of your own hidden depth is to remain a helpless puppet, pulled by the invisible strings of your unexamined emotions. The more fiercely you attempt to guard yourself against external pain, the more vulnerable you render yourself to internal ruin. The path forward does not lie in building stronger outer defenses, but in achieving deeper internal integration. Becoming unshakable is not an act of aggressive resistance. It is the natural consequence of profound self-knowledge. Most individuals labor under the misapprehension that emotional survival requires building thick walls around the heart. They don masks of cold indifference, declaring to anyone who will listen that they no longer care, that nothing can reach them. Yet behind this performative detachment, their inner world continues to bleed. The fundamental problem has never been the capacity to feel emotion. The problem is the lack of understanding regarding what one is feeling and why. I've often urged my students, know all the theories, master all the techniques, but when touching a human soul, be just another human soul. That human soul, which you so desperately try to hide behind a mask of invulnerability, is practically screaming to be recognized and accepted. True emotional strength has nothing to do with stoicism, emotional numbness, or the evasion of conflict. It is found in the willingness to integrate, to bring into the gentle light of consciousness every shadow, fear, and insecurity you have banished to the dark corners of your mind. You do not become invincible by erecting barriers between yourself and the human experience. You become untouchable when you realize that no external force can destabilize what you have already fully acknowledged and embraced within yourself. When you consciously own your flaws, your secret fears, and your deepest wounds, you cease to be a helpless reactor to life. You begin to observe, to choose, and to respond with deliberate wisdom. You are no longer an emotional puppet dancing to the whims of circumstance. This profound transformation is what I have termed the process of individuation, the gradual, lifelong journey of becoming who you truly are, distinct from the collective expectations of society and the false persona you constructed to gain acceptance. Individuation is not an ideal of moral perfection. It is a quest for psychological wholeness. You do not need to invent a superior version of yourself. You simply need to gather all your fragmented parts and become whole. Consider this psychological paradox. The more desperately you flee from suffering, the more relentlessly it pursues you. The more you fight to remain unaffected by life, the more fragile you become. But when you find the courage to turn around and face your inner wounds, when you embrace the full spectrum of your being, including both the noble and the shameful, nothing in the external world retains the power to unseat you. This journey demands exceptional courage. It requires the willingness to turn your gaze inward, toss your comfortable masks, and to allow yourself to feel deeply. For it is precisely within the experience of pain that the transformative doorway to your ultimate strength lies hidden. From our earliest days, we are conditioned to treat pain as an enemy. Society teaches us that emotional suffering is a sign of personal failure, that tears represent weakness, and that sensitivity is a dangerous liability. Consequently, we learn to run, to deny, and to distract ourselves. Yet, pain that is denied does not simply evaporate. It mutates. It reappears as chronic anxiety, unexplained irritability, emotional numbness, or destructive behavioral compulsions. Unacknowledged suffering quietly digs subterranean tunnels within your psyche until, without warning, the entire ground beneath your feet collapses. I came to view psychological suffering in a fundamentally different light. To me, pain is the sacred messenger of the soul, the indispensable alarm sounded by the unconscious to alert you that something within your life is severely out of balance. If depression or deep sadness comes to your door, do not rudely push it away. Treat it as a lady in black who has arrived at your home. Invite her in, offer her a seat, treat her with courtesy, and listen attentively to what she has come to tell you. Regrettably, most people refuse to listen. They drown out the voice of their pain with ceaseless busyness, superficial distractions, or artificial numbing agents. They do everything within their power to avoid confronting the very message that could heal them. Your suffering feels unbearable precisely because you are engaged in an internal civil war. One part of your psyche demands growth and transformation, while another part desperately clings to familiar, stagnant patterns. There is something deep within you crying out for authentic evolution, yet your ego, terrified of losing control, attempts to strangle that call. Pain is born in that violent internal friction. Real growth requires a willingness to let old beliefs, toxic attachments, and outdated self-concepts die. It involves a profound process of psychological death and rebirth. Yet, it is precisely within the ruins of your old identity that your true self begins to emerge. When your artificial certainties crumble and your vulnerabilities are laid bare, you are finally stripped of the performance, the masks, and the pretense. You are forced to encounter yourself as you truly are. Pain is not the catastrophic end of your story. It is the painful, necessary beginning of your journey toward individuation. The tragedy of the human condition is that most individuals panic and turn back long before they cross this transformative valley. They retreat into comfortable distractions, returning to the shallow surface of existence. But true freedom belongs only to those who are willing to walk through the fire. The path of individuation is entirely uncompromising. It promises no easy comfort, offers no flattering guarantees, and shows no mercy to the illusions of the ego. To become who you truly are requires you to unlearn everything you once believed you were. This realization is often far more painful than any rejection from the external world, for you come to recognize that much of what you considered your identity was merely a defensive construct designed to secure love, approval, and safety. This transformation requires the systematic dissolution of the persona, that artificial mask we wear to satisfy collective expectations. You must be willing to strip away these psychological layers to discover the authentic core beneath. When you undergo this profound internal confrontation, you acquire a form of strength that no longer depends on outer validation, social standing, or situational control. You no longer feel the desperate need to win every trivial argument, to be liked by every person you meet, or to maintain a flawless public image. You know who you are in your absolute depth, and because of that rootedness, no external judgment can dismantle your foundation. This is the true nature of psychological armor. It is not a rigid outer shell. It is an integrated inner core. It is the alignment of all your light and dark aspects around a centralized axis of conscious awareness. You will still experience the painful events of life, but they will no longer have the power to destroy you. You may be wounded, but you will not be undone, because you have ceased reacting blindly to the world and have learned to inhabit your own depth. This level of self-realization carries a distinct price, a profound sense of inner solitude. This solitude does not mean you are physically isolated from others, but rather that few will be capable of walking this deep path alongside you. Most individuals remain comfortably trapped on the surface of life, terrified of their own shadows. As you awaken to your deeper nature, you will naturally outgrow environments, relationships, and conversations that once sustained you. This distance is not created out of arrogance or superiority. It is simply the natural consequence of psychological maturation. You cannot remain in spaces that require you to shrink back into the mask you have worked so hard to shed. Nothing in this world will ever insulate you from life's inevitable storms so long as you remain asleep to your own inner dynamics. Words will continue to sting, rejections will continue to paralyze you, and unexpected losses will continue to break your spirit until you make the deliberate choice to awaken. Awakening is not a mystical, one-time epiphany. It is a quiet, continuous commitment to self-honesty. It is the willingness to look within, especially when it causes discomfort, and to take absolute responsibility for your internal state, laying down the easy habit of blaming parents, partners, society, or fate. What you resist will inevitably persist. What you accept undergoes a natural transformation. You may have spent decades resisting the terror of inadequacy, the quiet ache of loneliness, or the fear of being truly seen. In your effort to escape those feelings, you hid your true self, silenced your authentic voice, and exhausted your vital energies, attempting to control the uncontrollable dot. Yet here you remain, weary from an endless war against both the external world and your own soul. Real emotional immunity is never found in hardened insensitivity. It is found in absolute clarity of consciousness. It is not achieved by erecting emotional fortresses, but by vastly expanding your field of awareness. When you gain a deep, compassionate understanding of your psychological triggers, your underlying wounds, and your habitual defense mechanisms, the reactive behavior of others loses its capacity to destroy your peace. You will still feel the broad spectrum of human emotion, but you will no longer drown in it. You will still encounter pain, but you will never again lose your essential self within it. Those who reside entirely on the shallow surface of life are thrown and battered by every passing wave. But those who possess the courage to dive deep into the waters of the unconscious discover that beneath the chaotic surface lies a profound, untouched realm of absolute stillness, stability, and enduring power. When you anchor your existence in that quiet depth of integration, presence, and acceptance, the storms of the world may blow fiercely around you, but they will no longer find anything within you to shatter. Have you ever wished to be someone who is entirely unshakable, someone who moves through this world unbothered by the sharp sting of criticism, the cold shadow of rejection, or the quiet bitterness of betrayal? Have you ever sat alone in the dimming light of late evening, dreaming of the day when that silent, persistent anguish inside you finally ceases? It is an exhausting thing, is it not, to carry an unbearable weight while carefully maintaining a polished facade of composure for the outside world? Perhaps you are simply weary of attempting to appease everyone around you, worn thin by the demand to remain strong, when all your soul truly craves is a moment of rest, a temporary reprieve from the crushing pressure of pretending to be untouchable. Allow me to share an uncomfortable truth with you, one that few in this life have the courage to speak aloud. So long as you devote your precious energy to avoiding pain, that very pain will continue to govern your life. When you attempt to numb your heart, to build fortress walls around your spirit, or to hide away your vulnerabilities, you do not achieve safety. You merely render yourself a perpetual hostage to the external world. You remain subject to the casual words that cut you, the unexpected actions that disappoint you, and the heavy silences that slowly erode your peace from within. Do not mistake this struggle for personal weakness. It is the quiet, universal condition of modern humanity. The only distinction between individuals is that some have become remarkably adept at playing the role of the unaffected actor. Throughout my long life, as I listened to the intimate confessions of countless souls sitting in my consulting room, I observed that we are not defined by what happens to us, but by what we choose to become. Here lies the essential key to the human psyche. True psychological resilience is not found in shielding yourself against the unpredictable currents of existence, nor is it achieved by cultivating a cold, indifferent stance toward humanity. It is found in integration. It is the deliberate act of bringing into the clear light of conscious awareness everything that currently haunts you in the dark. Authentic strength is never the total absence of suffering. It is the presence of full self-awareness, even when you are bleeding. If you are listening to these words right now, it is suffering. You must cease your desperate attempt to protect yourself from it. What your soul requires is not greater control over your environment, but greater awareness of your inner landscape. So long as you insist that others must change their behavior so that you may find peace, you will remain enslaved by the choices of those around you. Your liberation begins the precise moment you realize that external events possess power over you only when they find a matching echo.